Good morning, kids. Today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios about turning more My Singing Monsters into Fantasy Beasts Part 5. Now, I know I did kind of skip over parts 3 and 4 by accident, but we're checking out this video because it was recommended to me from a Twilight Gamer. Shout out to you, and I hope you enjoy. Now let's hop in.
I have been presented with a challenge by monster handlers Jen and Tyson over on the My Singing Monsters YouTube channel. By the time you're watching this video,
cool.
there will be an interview up of me on that channel where Jen and Tyson got me to talk about my art process and the origins of Popcross Studios and why I started making my series of turning My Singing Monsters into fantasy beasts. It was a really fun interview. I highly recommend you check it out. I'll have it linked in the cards, in the description, and the pinned comment. But as I said, they gave me a challenge during that interview to take the Gnarls specifically and turn it into one of my more monstrous fantasy versions of a My Singing Monster. And I figured if I was doing one new one, might as well do a whole new set of 4. So after a bit of a delay, we're finally back to episode 5 of My Singing Monsters, More Monstrous. Let's go.
Let's go. One moment. There we go. I wanted to increase the quality.
If you want,
now let's go.
Subscribe if you feel like. But either way,
enjoy the show.
There is a part of our minds that, in my world, I've often heard referred to as the compass of focus, though I've also learned some other realms refer to it as the reticular activating system. It essentially filters out unnecessary information from our conscious attention, so whatever we are determined to focus on, we are likely to see even more of. I have noticed much evidence of this function recently within myself.
That's actually kind of a neat trick. It's why you can always hear your name in no matter what size crowd you're in.
As I have deliberately acquired more and more allies around my world who assist me in overseeing and protecting both the humans and beasts around us, I have found that I'm quickly becoming even more aware of new aids and protectors arising in all regions of the world, hearing tales of many people whom I've never met doing the same work that I'm attempting to do. I met recently again with one of the first groups of beast chroniclers who I found to be incredible allies in my work, those who refer to themselves as the monster handlers. And they regaled me with more tales of people around our world, essentially doing their work for them, helping the monsters of song, spoken of in the hymns of the Colossal's texts, turn from their vicious and violent tendencies that they were pushed into over the last centuries back to their peaceful and musical ways. They recently ventured through a region where they believed there may be a long-thought extinct monster of song referred to as the Gnarling Terrasites.
Actually, Tehran, it's pronounced Gnarling Terrasites.
Oh, what the?
I apologize, but I'm not quite hearing a difference. Gnarling Terrasites?
No. Gnarling. Gnar.
Cat?
Yes, I understand. I see. The Gnarling Terrasites.
Okay,
anyhow, these creatures are groups of parasitic creatures that are rather small themselves, but will attach to trees or plants and work in tandem with other terrasites to control the latent motor functions of the foliage, essentially giving themselves a new body constructed from nature. The handlers came to this region
so these little head things are actually the monsters, and the tree is just a tree.
This creature, believing they'd have to enact their usual practice of playing music for the beast to bring it back to its true nature. But when they located it, they found it had already made peace with the surrounding villages and was once more playing its music. You see, a young girl had spotted the creature hissing and storming away from her family as they hiked the nearby woods, and intuitively she thought to come back to the area with her lute and play a calming melody. She did so 3 days in a row, and on the third day, a bizarre but beautiful tune rang through the trees and joined her. The Gnarling Terrasites came forth, and she saw firsthand how they could bind their tentacles together and vibrate them in a way that created a sound almost like harmonious humans singing. While the handlers had realized then that they were not needed in this region, they still took the time to meet with the girl and join her and the Terrasites in a set of songs, greatly enjoying being in the presence of humans and creatures that had found peace with one another. And, strangely enough, some of the monster handlers found that the creatures' vibrations sounded incredibly similar to their own voices.
Okay, so that's kind of
obviously
like
I've been excited to do this drawing because I was challenged to do it, and I had a lot of fun with it, and I knew I You know, I wanted it to still have some more monstery kinds of qualities, like, you know, part of this series is making things look a little bit freakier, but with this
I
one I
like the
might
bug
not have
eyes.
gone as far as with some of the other ones. Though I do like when I read and saw that these things are parasites that latch onto trees, I was like, okay, for the actual flowery head parts of this thing, I can lean into some creepier elements and reference images of parasites and insects. And for the tentacles, well, on the actual gnarls, it kind of looks like the tentacles are a bit more like vines. To
They
up
do
the
look
creepiness
almost
and weirdness
tongue-like.
factor a little bit, I went with more of a spiky octopus sort of texture, and I do think that ended up being a cool little blend. And I do think it's
Yeah, it
kind
is
of funny that
nice.
while I was drawing this, I realized that it kind of looks like I have the two parasites doing like a little slap fight with each other or something instead of binding their tentacles. But you know, that doesn't actually bother me. It was just like a funny little reference that kept coming to mind. This one doesn't turn out to be my favorite from this episode, but I definitely had a lot of fun with it. I'm really glad Jen
Oh
and Tyson
yeah,
challenged
kind
me to
of.
take it on, and I hope they like it, all the My Singing Monsters family likes it, and of course everyone else watching. So let's take a look.
Well, I have to say, that actually isn't too bad kind of a beast. This is actually kind of interesting. Good job, man.
Another group that has aided
Oh,
me in
God.
elevating the peace and harmony of my world is one with
This guy took the Mega Brain Challenge so far, he's literally all brain.
the admittedly menacing name, the Slayers of Cursed Predators, and I
remember
recently
that.
brought the monster handlers to meet them, as I believed the Slayers to have within their vast castle walls a creature in captivity that was itself one of the monsters of song. One that I would have had a very difficult time
hopefully.
believing existed
Maybe.
just a few years ago. Upon showing it to the handlers, we found this was indeed correct. It was a monster of song. The creature had been held in
Okay,
a
hold on. Before he continues on with this, look at this guy without any coloration. Looks like he's got some kind of strange style afro. Oh. Like it's all piled up and it's got like something on top. I'm sorry, I don't know much about hairstyles, but look at this. Look at that and try and tell me that doesn't look like some kind of a afro.
cage that suppressed its abilities for decades, as it had caused great distress and destruction some time ago. It is called the Theramendus cerebrite, and it appears like a breed of ogre, but is capable of vastly elevated intelligence. It even has the capacity to send mental images into the minds of humans and creatures within a
Ooh.
few miles of it. Along with that, well, it seems to never open its own mouth, it is able to summon hovering, floating manifestations of mouths in its own hands.
That's creepy.
Once used to sing,
cool.
though it had been some time since they'd been used for that purpose. In the years since the monsters of song had turned vicious as a result of being hunted by humans, this creature had been hiding away in a mountainous region in solitude. But eventually, a group of humans came near its territory intending to build a settlement. The creature, fearing for its life, sent horrifying, nightmarish images into the minds of everyone in the group, driving
it didn't
many of
kill
them into a
anyone,
panic.
thankfully.
Some were still able to calm themselves, though, and didn't flee, so the Cerebrite then came down to their encampment, summoned vicious toothed maws, and sent them soaring at the humans,
Never mind.
tearing many of them to pieces.
Damn, man.
For this
I gave
reason,
you an
I
out.
found it completely understandable why the Slayers of Cursed Predators had stepped in to capture this creature, but the time had long since passed to simply lock it away. I joined the monster handlers in song just outside the creature's cage for quite some time, but there seemed to be no effect. It would simply snarl at us furiously, until I attempted something possibly more dangerous than I should have. As I
What?
sang one of our later songs, I slipped directly into the cage myself, approaching the creature as
dude.
calmly as I could. It thrust its head down towards me and stared at me with its swirling eyes, but I did my best to keep singing in tune and stay calm. It did nothing to harm me, so soon I stepped to the side of its containment, drew my knife, and carved away part of the magical sigil painted on the wall that kept it from using its abilities. To the protest of Sir Jackson Bright watching from outside the cage.
No, I could see that.
However,
I could
as
see
soon as
that.
I did, the creature summoned a mouth in each hand, though not vicious razor-toothed ones. The mouths began to sing along with our song in beautiful harmony, and soon the Slayers were...
There it is. He wanted to sing, but he literally couldn't use his power. And he doesn't make any noise out of his own mouth. So, yeah. You gotta destroy the sigil so you can summon a mouse so we can sing. There you go.
Convinced enough to allow us to bring the creature out of its cage. They did not yet trust it back out in the wild, but promised to continue playing music along with it, and hopefully, in the near future, see fit to set it completely free. And admittedly, given the creature's incredible mental strengths, I may even see if I can create a bond with it to use it as a summon in the future.
Ooh, that would be cool.
Now, this one is my personal favorite of this episode. It still doesn't quite reach the levels of the Brump from episode 3. That, I think, still sticks as my absolute favorite from this series, but I really like how this one turned out. And one reason that I might have avoided in the past using the Theraminde or Theramind, I'm not sure which way you're supposed to pronounce it,
probably
is its abilities seemed a little bit too magical for Tayrin's universe, because, you know, people that have watched this channel for a long time know his universe started off kind of bordering on magical, like having some magical elements to it, and over time it has gotten more and more magical ever since Tayrin became the overseer of his world, and he became more open-minded and started seeing more magical stuff. But I also realized that since I have this version of the SCP Foundation, the Slayers of Cursed Predators, established as people that have contained and hidden away some of the more vastly...
Oh my god, I finally just got it. An SCP, Slayer of Cursed Predators. Oh my god, I just realized that. And oh my god. Whoa, I am so sorry. I should have realized that long ago, people. I am sorry.
Magical elements and creatures. That would be a good way to work in a creature like this, saying that they've had it in containment for a long time. And actually, speaking of the SCP Foundation, another reason that I was excited to do this one was because visually it felt like what I could do with it would almost be like an elevated version of my Mewtwo SCP that I did in my Pokemon as SCP series.
Oh yeah,
I really loved that drawing, and I knew I could use similar sorts of elements for this one. I referenced images of these really weird wrinkly-faced bats, as well as those sort of wrinkly cats for the kind of texture to do on the brain and head. And I pulled a little bit of inspiration from some of my Xenomorph episodes I've done recently, and just lots of different things melded together to make this one feel like a really cool addition to this series.
Well, I have to say, you did pretty good with this one. I mean, it's creepy as all hell to look at, but still, very amazing. Well done.
Quick interruption to say that all the art from this episode will be made available as posters on my Teespring store and linked in the description. There's also shirts, sweaters, and ink bundles up on the Teespring store as well. Speaking of inks, if you want the inks from this episode to color yourself, they'll be up on the Popcross Studios Patreon at the time you're watching this.
Support the
inks
guy.
And high-resolution art go up on there a day before a video's released. Plus, by joining for $5 American per month, you get access to a bonus podcast series called Design Notes, where I go more in depth talking about my art and writing process. All that'll be linked in the description, but now back into more art.
Let's go. Oop. Actually, I guess we're stopping. Be right back. And we're back.
In the Theramendus Cerebrite, I was spending one more evening with the handlers, and they regaled me with another tale of humans making peace with the monsters of song, unprompted by any added influence.
Ooh.
In the days of the Hymns of the Colossals, there had been an island which Polynesian explorers referred to as Motu Afi, but the religious texts of the hymns called the Fire Oasis. Here resided many creatures of song who thrived in nearly infernally hot regions. Sadly, at some point in the last few centuries, it had been raided by hunters, and the monsters of song on it were either killed or forced to flee.
Damn.
One of these creatures is the Fanglerist land gnasher. It is a 20-foot-tall bipedal fish that can survive as easily on land as in water, but has spent the last few years on the island of Hawaii, remaining close to the summit of Kilauea, a volcanic mountain that likely provided the heat the creature sought. Residents of the island were wary of treading too close to this creature's region, as they knew it had a tendency to devour any who approached it, or even smack them with its tail, hurling them into the bubbling lava.
Ow.
Worse still, after a recent eruption from the volcano, the Gnasher was wandering farther down the mountain, following the streams of lava, getting much closer to the people around. It came down near a beach where there were many humans gathered, and it seemed ready to attack them, baring its teeth viciously. Many began to flee. Some raised spears and koa clubs, but one man simply raised his ukulele. He was a living local legend, oft referred to simply as Bretta is, and he began singing an incredibly calming song. Many kept their weapons raised, but were noticing that the creature seemed completely fixated on Iz. It slowly approached, with many around anxious for a confrontation, but as the creature got even closer, it simply crouched down before Bretta Iz and listened. Soon, it even lowered the tendrils that spawned from its head in front of the musician and opened its mouth. Playing the music directly towards the ends of the Gnasher's tendrils allowed the music to be greatly amplified across the beach, ringing out through the creature's mouth, with an additional voice seemingly added into the mix. Soon after, all lowered their weapons, and some even joined in with instruments and vocals of their own. What could have been a very violent conflict ended with a peaceful ceremony, which would come to be one of many times people would work alongside this creature to make beautiful music.
I like it.
Now, coming into this episode, I knew I had to start doing more things a little bit differently with the lore and storytelling in this. Because this series is 5 episodes deep now, I knew I couldn't just have every episode be Tayrin meets up with the monster handlers, they go sing to some creatures, the creatures become peaceful, hooray.
Etc.
I mean, like, there are different versions of that I can do that work. Like, in this, I like the element of having them go to the SCP Foundation, the Slayers of Cursed Predators in this universe, but I also really like this idea of starting to tell more stories of the monster handlers finding out that there are lots of other people now helping bring the monsters of Song back to a more peaceful state. And it also kind of aligned with something that I heard recently from a spiritual speaker who said that one person living in a loving high vibration has more impact on the world than a million people living in fear. And there's this idea that the more people who are living in peace with themselves and their surroundings, the more the planet as a whole is elevated vibrationally. So I thought that fit kind of nicely thematically with what's been happening in Tayrin's universe ever since he became an overseer. Everyone is slowly becoming more at peace, and magic is starting to come back more, and his whole realm is just starting to become more peaceful. Also, the singer that I referred to in this is just Tayrin's world's version of Israel Kamikavivole, who is a very famous Hawaiian singer who died a couple decades back. But you very likely heard his version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which I think is my absolute favorite version of that song. And he was one of the core influences behind...
I thought so. When I heard the name, I was like, wait, is that the Over the Rainbow guy? And it is!
That Disney animated short film, Lava, about the 2 volcanoes falling in love. Oh, also, design-wise, I chose this one because it had some vibes similar to Ripjaws from Ben 10, who's one of my 2 favorite Ben 10 aliens. It also had a little bit of a, aquatic T-Rex almost sort of shape to it, sort of. Kind of like the Brump, so like I figured this was going to be a fun one to work with.
It actually, hold on, it really is just an aquatic Stridle from Minecraft. Instead of lava, it's water. But it has to be no lava to say,
Before
like,
parting ways with the monster handlers
that?
once more, I inquired if they had yet ventured down to the alleged hiding place of the specific breed of monster...
No, I'm sorry, but what the absolute heck is this thing? Is that the monster, or is that the monster? Are they 2 monsters that walk together?
...of Song, known as the Woo Beasts. They hadn't yet, but claimed that that was where they were headed next. The last time I'd met with the handlers, they spoke of a beast chronicler who'd found her own way down to the Woo Beast's cavernous lair, and had studied some of the creatures. She was going to guide them all down into these depths. She had also informed them of many more of the creatures she herself had seen, and one of them quickly had me thinking again about my compass of focus. My significant other, Kayla, recently interacted with a creature with abilities and physiology I'd never thought of as possible before, and now may have soon after been made aware of another creature just like it. You see, this monster of Song she referred to as the Therazinus Bone Mite. She claimed it was a set of 2 creatures living symbiotically together, with one living directly in the ribcage of another, larger beast with a skeletal head, pink fur, and long claws that resembled that of the Therizinosaurus dinosaur, hence its name. She claimed the smaller of the creatures would tap on the ribcage of the larger one to create music and sounds that would echo through the caves, and it could use that to find its way around even the darkest regions. I cannot claim to have any more knowledge than the woman who actually saw this creature firsthand. My theory is slightly different about this beast's physiology, based on a recent ordeal Kayla and I went through with the Slayers of Cursed Predators. You see, they have in containment a creature that has no semblance of sentience itself, but is instead like a vessel that anyone can climb inside of and control the movements of. In motion, it seems like a living, breathing creature in its own right, but its movement is only possible with someone inside it controlling it, as Kayla utilized recently to help defeat a very vicious dragon. So perhaps this bone mite is not living symbiotically with another.
Wait, so does that mean in some universe, the immortal lizard has officially been killed? Huh. Note to self.
Their sentient creature, but is instead living within a creature like the one Kayla interacted with. One whose actions are actually controlled by the creature within. I cannot say that that is the case for certain, and it is something I'd like to study myself. But for the time being, I'll leave further discoveries surrounding the Woo Beasts to the monster handlers, and remain grateful that people like them, and clearly many others around my world, are helping our realm find peace.
Okay, he hasn't even gone to the coloring yet, but I have to say this is definitely my favorite of the episode, because this thing is absolutely creepy as heck.
Now, I think I actually mentioned in my interview with Jen and Tyson the fact that I really like the Bon Appetit's design, which I don't think I remembered the name when I was doing the actual interview, but I referenced it as a creature that I didn't think I'd be able to use in this series because it was a little bit too out there. Again, Tehran's universe was supposed to have some bordering on magical elements, but now it's gone much farther into that. And I was just like,
Yeah,
you know what? I
very
definitely
blurry.
think having this creature is justified, and it helped that in my recent original story episode, the Beast Summoner to slay a cursed predator, involving turning subscribers' SCPs into dragons for the story, one of the submissions sent in by someone who went by insert name here, my altered version of their creature gave perfect context for what this creature could be like in Tehran's universe. So it's one smaller creature sitting inside of a creature that isn't sentient itself, but the smaller creature can then control the bigger creature. Hopefully I explained that kind
like
of
a
well.
Gundam,
Especially if you haven't
a
seen
giant
the
robot.
Beast Summoner to slay a cursed predator episode, that might not have made sense, but that is a fun episode that you might want to check out. And anyway, basically the point is I had some inbuilt justification in this universe for how a creature like the Bon Appetit could work. And I really loved working with this one. My one complaint about this drawing is that I should have made a more interesting pose. I really like how the design turned out. I probably could have gone a little bit more monstrous with the skeletal head part, but it just, you know, this is one of those times where I really like the drawing and the texturing I gave to it, but it just, I think it would have been a lot more fun and menacing if I had this thing kind of lumbering towards us, reaching out towards us, or even running at us. I think that could have made this one significantly cooler, but overall I am still quite pleased with this one, and as a whole, I think this episode turned out really well. Oh, and
hold on, folks, we'll be right back. And we're back.
Way, the compass of focus, or reticular activating system, which I have Tehran reference a couple times in this, is an actual thing that our minds have. And it's essentially why if you learn a new word, let's say, you'll find that it's likely in the next few days you're hearing that word pop up again and maybe again and again. And it's not necessarily that that word is just coming up more often all of a sudden, it's that you're aware of that word, so you're noticing it more. Or in my case, last year I bought my first car, and it's a Subaru, and I don't really pay attention to car brands ever, but now I'm suddenly seeing that there's just Subarus everywhere. It's not that there's actually more of them, it's just that I'm more consciously aware of them. That's the reticular activating system in action. And it's also one of the reasons that consciously choosing and making an effort to have a more positive demeanor and attitude is beneficial to you, because if you're choosing to do that on a conscious level, then subconsciously your reticular activating system is going to be looking for more positive things around you. Anyway, that doesn't have much to do with this episode, but just thought it would be some interesting stuff to add in at the end.
Well, it is.
Well, let's take a look at the final drawing, shall we?
God, this is a terrifying beast, and my favorite of the episode. I don't know why, it's just creepy the heck.
I would definitely call this a successful 5th round. Huge thank you to both monster handlers Jen and Tyson and the whole My Singing Monsters family, both for that interview and for cameoing in this video. Again, the interview is linked everywhere. I highly recommend you check it out. But if you are new to the channel coming from that interview, you're in luck. You've got 4 other episodes of My Singing Monsters More Monstrous that you can watch. Plus, I work with tons of other stuff on this channel. I design mech armors, fantasy armors, xenomorphs, Spider-Men, dragons, more dragons.
Spider-Man.
Take a look around the channel, see if there's anything else that catches your eye. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of positive or inspiring
uplifting
note. And the thought I want to leave people with is actually something that I've been using the last couple weeks that I've found very helpful for both my mental and physical health. I'm using it throughout my whole day, but it started on a day where I was in the gym and I was not getting through sets the way I wanted to, and I was noticing that I was being kinda down on my mind and body. And in a moment of clarity, I kinda just realized that I was being unfair, that my mind and body were doing the absolute best they could based on how I feed them and how I treat them. So instead, before each set, I started saying to myself, I love my body unconditionally, and I love my mind unconditionally. And really trying to feel the embodiment of that love as I said and thought those things. Not just saying the words. And from there I found I was getting through every set, I was having more fun doing it, and I was just generally much more positive. So I started saying that throughout my entire day. Specifically when I wake up or even when I look at myself in the mirror. I highly encourage anyone else out there to start saying those two things. I love my mind unconditionally, and I love my body unconditionally.
You gotta love yourself.
I think it can be very helpful in lots of different situations. I hope that's inspiring to someone out there. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Friday. Goodbye.
Ooh, okay, there we go. Well, folks, that's going to be the end of today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link will be in the description below, and I'll see you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.